Well, ladies and gentlemen, the mid-season finale of The Walking Dead has come and gone. And quite the ending. I don't know exactly what I was expecting from the ending. This was certainly satisfying. And again, it's also a mid-season finale. It's not a season finale, so I guess that I was expecting a little bit more, only because I was mentally going into this as a mid-season finale, or not a mid-season, as a full season finale, it's my own fault for thinking that. This is really the halfway point of the season. Although, let's face it, for that, it left off on quite the doozy, which we'll get into in a second. I suppose first things first, we have, I like to call it the new cannon fodder. We, of course, basically start the episode here. Sorry about that. We start the episode with a new group of people coming on in to the prison. We actually kind of see how things are kind of wandering on into the prison. And the most interesting part about this new group is a character that's basically from the comics. The character of, let me get his name here right, Tyrese, who, fan favorite from the series. Actually, ironically, I have the Wikipedia up here. I believe he died in the comics. Tyrese was killed in, spoiler alert for the comics, in the volume Made to Suffer. Which is kind of ironic, since the name of the mid-season finale here is Made to Suffer, and it's his introduction. And from all news that I've been able to get, he's going to be made an average character. Which, by the way, I'm calling it right now when it comes to Tyrese, because they also killed Oscar this episode. And it's like the show can't have more than one black male. I called this one. I'm calling this if this becomes a trope for the show. Because I kind of leaned over to I'm watching this with my brother, and I lean over to him and I'm like, this show can only have one black guy. It's like they have a quota system or something. Well, can't have two. Feed the other one to the zombie. Sorry. Right? They kind of were introducing Oscar joining the group, so they killed T-Dog. Now we get Tyrese joining up at the prison, so they kill off Oscar. Tyrese, you better, as soon as you see another black guy, you have to kill him, or the producers will murder you. I mean, come on, it's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? That's certainly, I guarantee you, is going to become one of the tropes. Like, a couple years down the line, even after it's over, people are going to start, like, kind of poking fun at that whenever a black character came along to kill the old black character. But hey, it's good to see him back. So far, he seems to be very good in his role. We kind of get the sense that that his group is very much like Rick's group. You kind of immediately get that sense. And even though they're not well established, one, they're kind of needed, because, alright, we've killed off Oscar, and now we're left with the other guy, I forget his name, who had the kind of creepy pedo moment. But, okay, so out of the prisoners, they're left with one prisoner now. So they kind of need the cannon fodder. And I think this also really, so his group seems we'll get back on Tyrese. His group seems very much centered on, or very much modeled after Rick's, which I guess it helps with immediately us sympathizing with them, to where they're not like the Woodbury group, which is much larger than their group. One, it's smaller, and it's going to be interesting to see when Rick and the rest get back, how are they going to incorporate these guys. Because it's looking like the war between the prison and Woodbury is going to be kind of heating up when they return. And you have these guys who are really now going to be thrust into a fight between two groups of people, instead of against the zombies. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play that up. How do they really jump into this? Or are they kind of going, well, what's wrong with these Woodbury people? Is this our fight? Well, if they had more time with the prison group, we could get a better sense of that happening. But we'll see. We'll see what goes on, how this all works out. It'll be interesting to say the least. I suppose we should get on to the actual assault on Woodsbury. Um, though I will make the mention, what the hell was Glenn thinking when he ripped off a zombie's arm, tore out the freaking bone, and like broke it in multiple places, and then like stripped the bone out so he could have like a stabbing implement. What happened to that broken chair that was in there? Grab a piece of wood. Come on, man. That's kind of sick. He thinks of this over everything else to make some sort of weapon. It's kind of like you kind of look at it, you're like, really, you're just throwing that in there for gore's sake. Come on. I mean, I know that's kind of not what the show's kind of really going for, but come on, that was a little ridiculous. Entertaining, yes, but at the same time, you're sitting there like, really? I mean, I'm laughing at it because I know the producers kind of just put it in there because, no, he can't just simply have a weapon. We had to think of the most horrible way for him to acquire this thing. You gotta love it. At least it's doing something violence-wise. I mean, hell, I'm to see this on TV. Because let's face it, a lot of the movies now are just pussyfooting it. I'm looking at you, Red Dawn. Actually, I scratch that. I can't. One thing you can't. I know I've been complaining about Red Dawn the past couple of videos, but one thing you can't argue with the remake is that it's PG-13, considering the original was the first PG-13 film. It would actually probably, I would consider it a travesty if they had made it a full R, or if they made it a PG. Red Dawn should always be PG-13 in order to keep that legacy. But I've digressed. So we had the assault on Woodsbury. Very interesting to see Rick and his group go up against actual human beings. Because now it's kind of indicated that Rick's group really is an amazingly competent group. Just at the fact that the Woodsbury people were just shocked that 10 people could go in and clear out that entire prison. And I guess maybe it's somewhat implying that the people that have been out on the roads and are surviving have now just like are incredibly just zombie killing motherfuckers. And maybe that the people at Woodbury have kind of slacked off because they just sit behind their walls. So that anyone or groups that have oiled themselves up to survive out on the road, as they say, are just, you don't want to mess with them now. They have just become so efficient killers that you can't go near them. Because they can just do stuff you would never even think possible. So we had the assault. Very interesting how they played it up with Andrea not exactly catching a clear glimpse of the attackers. And, she sees Oscar. So, she's never met Oscar before. Most of the audience barely met Oscar. Kind of sad to see him go in such a way, too. Because it's very, also, was I the only one that did not catch them capturing Daryl? Yeah, I did not catch that, and he kind of said that, okay, I'm going to provide the covering fire, but I really, maybe that was purposely done so we didn't realize what happens. I guarantee you that was the case. I thought maybe I just missed something. But anyway, of course, the big thing is the confrontation with Michonne is kind of sitting there waiting for. She breaks off from the group because she's got her own plan for vengeance. She's gonna catch the governor as he comes into his apartment and kind of slaughters her. And I kind of was suspecting Andrea at one point to kind of come into that room. Either she was gonna come in and not the governor, or the governor and Michonne were gonna get into a fight, and then at some point Andrea would step in. As it turns out, the latter was the case. But she did finally kind of hear the rumbling, which is kind of weird, because you figure at this, one of the reasons Andrea or anyone else never looked in that room is because, he had his daughter Penny tied up pretty well, so it's not like you'd hear that stuff. But lo and behold, Michonne hears the stuff rumbling. She goes into the room. She sees the wall of the dead, which we still didn't get a really good proper explanation as to what. Yeah, the governor kind of threw like a BS explanation. I don't know if that's really what the wall of heads was just to prepare myself for the halls of the world. Like, I need more there, Governor. That doesn't seem like the most practical way to go about that. He gets Wall dead. He holds Michonne winds up holding Penny hostage when she realizes she. Interesting that she kind of assumes at first that whoever the governor has tied up, it's like he's molesting her. I guess is her first assumption, which actually it probably says more about Michonne's character, maybe a little bit about her background then, that she thought that first. So, as we'll get a little reveal maybe into her character can be ascertained by that. But she winds up killing it, and it's a really good performance by what's his name? Actor's name. By David Morrissey, or Morrissey, however you pronounce it. Really good performance there, where we have this character kind of like finally break down this veneer and see like the really scared father when he thinks his daughter, even though he's a zombie daughter, his life is threatened. And you kind of feel sorry for the guy actually when Michonne runs her sword through him. It's like you kind of get it, his character, man. I would say with the show, it isn't really clear because you kind of get what the governor does. You don't agree with how he handles himself and stuff like what he did to the National Guard group and what he's doing with Glenn. His kind of need to wipe out any potential threats to his power, but kind of what he does internally, even holding the governor, his wall of heads and at least his daughter, you can sympathize with. You can kind of get. It's human. The other stuff, a couple of those other things, that's what makes him a villain in this case. But it's not she's not a mustache twirling villain. You kind of get his plan, and when he kills, it's for an internally logical reason from his perspective, and you can see that. Not saying we agree that it's obviously probably elements of him not wanting to lose his own power. Kind of somewhat isolationist. This is, and maybe kind of a signal to Rick as his group kind of immediately kind of rejects outsiders. Now it seems like you could be approaching a Woodbury type situation where you become a threat to everyone. You should be maybe more inclusive because the Woodbury way is what's getting people killed. So that's a rather interesting parallel I just thought of there. And maybe they'll explore that a little bit, especially as if after the prison scenario, after the end of Season 3 here, and they make their way up north, they get the idea that they cannot become like Woodsbury, that they have to actually work with every people they find. That'll be interesting. Of course, the fight actually between the governor and Michonne is pretty actually good, and that it's a very brutal, very realistic fight. A lot of times when we see female characters fight a male character in film, I don't like it because they always do the same thing. It's like, oh well, the female character is strong and she knows her kung fu and kind of easily kind of beats the crap out of the male character. Normally she doesn't take any hits or anything. This fight, on the other hand, was brutal, and I'll give credit to Danya Gira, Danier, whatever. Very good performance on her. You could kind of believe her punching back, and at the same time taking those hits. It was a very brutal fight between the two characters. Very realistic, especially with Michonne, because she normally has her very, slicey dicey katana wielding stuff. But here you can take her more as this is how a fight would actually look. This is how fights actually do look between two people. It's brutal. It's not very pretty looking. All that stuff. So kudos to that fight. and of course her stabbing the governor right in the eye. Because, your villain has to have an eye patch. It's like, at some point, I want to see a character in The Walking Dead be a pirate. Come on. We have the governor with the eye patch. Herschel has the leg, which I want to see them put a peg leg. We need a character that's like, Merle has like the arm that should be a hook. We need to combine these three and have whoever it is better have a beard too, and just have him be a pirate. Peg-legged, eye patch. Give him the hook for a hand, and you might as well give the guy a pet parrot. Come on, who's with me on that? Give me some support here. Right into the creators. They won't make a pirate on this show. Maybe we could do with Herschel. Come on. Get his arm cut off at one point. Give him a little hook. Hey, I'll have Merle come and join in. Like, oh, I can fix you up something there. Have the little eye patch, and have him find a pet parrot. Come on. I want to see this happen. Give him a tricorder while we're at it, too. And, of course, I guess we'll go right into it. The ending. Merle, obviously Merle reports back that he had killed Michonne. And as it turns out, she was the one that killed the governor's daughter. He's furious at this. He's obviously going to take this out on Merle. And so he says Merle was an internal traitor. And, by showing the proof, they captured Daryl and Merle. Technically together on screen for the first time as characters. Yes, there was the hallucination last season, but that wasn't the actual Merle and the actual Daryl on screen. That was a hallucination of Merle on screen. So it's the first time we're actually seeing the two together, and they didn't talk to each other. I kind of had a feeling something like this was going to pop up, especially with Michonne surviving. I always felt, I kind of even felt like when Merle was kind of making the excuse, kind of just, maybe he should end it. He should have just said, well, she was left into a pit of walkers. We assume she's dead. Give yourself a little wiggle room so if she pops up later on, you can kind of say, well, she wants to survive that. Should have gave himself a little wiggle room there. Although that might have not helped him in this case. But it'll be very interesting. I think from what I think actually it's been a little ruined what's going to happen. It looks like probably he's going to force, the governor's going to force, I'm going to guarantee, try to force Merle and Daryl to fight each other. But if you caught that little glimpse about, next season, it kind of showed the governor in that arena. It's very smoky, like they have the bombs again. So I have a feeling, in that preview, that's kind of showing us that probably right as they're making the two fight, Rick and his group show up, they throw the smoke bombs and kind of rescue Daryl. So that'll probably be the first episode of the other half of the season. So we've got that to look forward to. And speaking of the next season, might as well talk... Well, actually, no, before we do that, I want to talk a little bit more about Carl and kind of Carl's badassery that he's getting there. He kind of just shows up and shoots the zombies. He's definitely some confidence. A lot of people kind of made fun of Carl there for a while, saying, oh, great, Rick would be fine if he just didn't have a kid. Rick looks like a good character. As long as he doesn't have a kid or a wife, he'll be fine. Oh, shit. But now it's like, man, Carl's a scary motherfucker. As soon as that the one new person dies from that group, Carl's this very, okay, well, time to kill her. This is what I'm good at. Well, now that I said that piece, we go back to the next half of the season. Obviously, we're now going to see that Woodbury, I should say, and the prison are now fully aware of each other, and you're going to see this kind of slow build up. I think, well, not slow, but a build up to an assault on the prison, and the eventual death of the governor. At some point, I think Andrea's going to have to make her own choice. Although that was kind of shown clearly in the trailer for the rest of the season, that Ooh, baby. It's late. No, not really. It's only 10:30. That she's gonna have to make her own choice soon. In the next season, when she's kind of aware that, oh, yeah, this is the group that was with me for a very long time. So we're gonna see. And we'll see. I think again, what's his name? The kind of nerdy guy that works for the governor. I wouldn't be too surprised if at some point he winds up joining with the Rook group. He seems like a character we could see kind of come over onto their side. But it's gonna be very interesting how they do this whole thing. And of course, who's gonna be the one that winds up killing the governor? Because we know that happens in the comics. I have a feeling they're gonna keep that. I don't think they're gonna have the governor, kind of become the villain that keeps on following everybody. I think they're gonna do the plot line where very good excuse. Woodbury has driven them out. I mean, they killed the governor and his main force, but there's still a lot of people in Woodbury, so they're going to try to move up north, which eventually leads them to I think it's Annapolis, is the town outside of D.C. That'll be interesting if we get to that point where they settle in on D.C. I actually have to check out the comics to see where they've left off if they're still there. Feel free to update me on that. Overall, am I excited? Hell yes, I am excited for the rest of the season. Like, this is only the first half build-up. I can only imagine. This is mid-season finale. I can only imagine what the season finale is going to be when they're going to have that crazy assault on the prison, and we're going to see how that all turns out. Well, that is me. That is it for now, and that is also it for the Walking Dead reviews. Until February, of course. So come back, stay tuned, watch more of those. I do apologize that I missed last week's episode reviewing. I actually watched it, and then as soon as I kind of sat down to do the recording, a friend of mine shot me a message, and we wound up having to. And I wound up talking with him on Skype, and I kept on kind of going, oh, well, I'll record the video in a little bit, and then we get to playing Age of Empires 3, and by the time we ended, it's like, I'm tired. I don't feel like doing the review. Sorry about that, guys. Hey, I do this for free, and unlike some people, I have on my account the ability to put the ads on. I don't. I don't for a couple of reasons. One, I don't really get enough views that I'm going to make any money on it, and so I don't see the point in subjecting people watching my videos to have to sit through and watch like a minute-long ad. Spread the word, though. If enough people watch the videos that I can make maybe a little money, one, I'll be making a lot more videos, so this is why you should subscribe. And two, the quality would probably improve greatly. So that is it for now. We'll maybe be seeing some new updates. I've been considering doing the streaming thing on YouTube. I might play with that. Again, I've been trying to figure out a way to... okay, well, not trying to figure out. I know a way to have multiple people on. You could go to Audacity, but Audacity is a pain in the ass to work with. I could just probably should just get Pamela to do a Skype record. We'll see how the streaming thing goes. If that might be a little bit of a better way, if I can bring on more than one people. I don't think that works exactly that way. And we might get some video. I've been heavily considering purchasing a webcam, so maybe we'll actually have some video, which will make it a little bit more interesting. Some of the pauses I make, which is poor radio or poor audio, I'll normally make expressions with my face or something. So I think it would be a little bit better, and who knows? Maybe a little improvement. Maybe I'll get some editing programs where I'll take the normal screen and that'll be in the corner or something along those lines. But that'll probably all wait for a while. As for site news, I think I talked about that the other day on the Lincoln review. A little delay on the Rainbow Six. I was very unhappy with my first review that I recorded for Rainbow Six, the book review. So I'm going to plan on re-recording that. It was my first attempt at a book review, so it was a little different. So I decided to pause that, if you're wondering. And right now I'm kind of just running airtime, so check out The Walking Dead if you missed this episode. I don't know why. I'm assuming everyone out there has probably seen this episode and now they want to see what other people think of it. And you're here and you just listened to this for 25 minutes. Kudos to you, sir. If you've listened to me for 25 minutes, you probably really should subscribe because you just listened to something for 25 minutes. Ramble on. So check out the other reviews, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Sayonara. Signing off.